Well, we all have our Jeep to-do lists, right? I know I do. And today I'm checking a couple things off my list. So I thought I'd turn the camera on and share with you guys a few project ideas that you can do to your Jeep. These are mostly easy, inexpensive things. A couple things I've done in the past and something I'm doing today that I think you'll enjoy checking out. Well, hey everybody, welcome to 4x Trail. I'm Caleb and it's great having you along today. We're going to start off in the back of my Jeep looking at a product I installed about a year and a half ago that has really proved to be a nice feature for the inside of my Jeep. Come check it out. It's a rear seat recline system. If anyone's spent time in the back seat of a Wrangler, you know it is not very comfortable from the factory. Well, this kit solves that. It kicks that seat back about 2.5 inches from the factory setting using these little polymer blocks, like a Delrin block is what the material is. Incredibly strong. They include the extra long bolts to re-bolt the brackets back down to the floor. Very simple install. All you need is an 18 and a 19 millimeter socket and a breaker bar in an hour or two, and I tell you, the results are great. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if I jump back here, as a 6-foot tall guy, I'm just in a much more natural, comfortable seated position like I would be if I were in the front. My leg room is improved, my headroom is improved as well, because the entire seat is just kicked up and back ever so slightly. It's amazing what a difference it makes. If you've got bigger kids, they're going to be sitting back here as well for road trips and stuff like that. Just a huge improvement. It makes the back seat a much nicer place to be. I'm comfy. It's kind of nice back here. There are a couple of drawbacks to this system. Now that your seat is reclined a little bit, these two rear door catches extend into your entryway just a little bit, so it's easy to ram your hip on those when you're jumping in and out. I've done that at least once. It's not fun. And then in the back, if you're stacking toolboxes and recovery gear or suitcases or whatever against that back seat, it's tilted back a little bit, so it's not quite as vertical of a stacking space. Just a couple things to keep in mind. This next project, I'm going to be tensioning my winch line. Now, you guys might have had a winch for a while, and maybe your winch line needs a good cleaning. So the same procedure will work for both of these. I'm going to give some tips along the way. Then for those of you who will be cleaning your winch line while you have it spooled out, a little tool that you might find handy is called the grunge brush. It's got some firm but still pliable bristles on it. It's actually for dirt bike and ATV chains to clean it. But yeah, it's really useful, and if you just dip that into some detergent or whatever is safe to use on the type of winch line that you have, and just keep a hose nearby and just spray it down as you go with the line fully stretched out taut, and then let it dry in the sun before spooling it back in. Kind of a handy little tool. So first things first, you want to free spool that winch and get all the line out. Definitely wear a good pair of gloves when you're working with winches and lines like this. It's just good to be on the safe side. Re-engage that clutch, and then with your controller begin powering the line back in. Now for the first few turns around the drum, all you need is a little tension by hand. You don't want to put a lot of tension on the rope. I got my hand a little bit close to the fairlead there. You want to make sure your hand stays a safe distance away from that fairlead. And then once you get 5 or 6 turns around the drum, you're good to move on to the next step. So you want to anchor your line to something secure. I've chosen to use a tree strap around a large tree in our yard, something that's slightly higher in elevation than the vehicle. And then with the vehicle running and in neutral, and it's smart to have someone in the driver's seat for something like this in case something goes wrong, they're able to stop the vehicle for you. You just want to power that line in little by little, making sure it wraps nice and even left to right across the drum. And once you get to the last few feet, you can disconnect and just do those last few feet by hand. And that's it. That's why you wear gloves right there. Yeesh. All right, the next project is going to be respraying your radiator. If you're like me, I don't like running the little vent clips that go in there, that look aesthetically nice, but I just feel like they block a little bit of the airflow. So I'm all about maximum airflow getting into the radiator. So I don't run one of those, and my radiator began showing some road rash on it after a long overlanding trip I took last fall. So I just, it's real easy to pop the grill off on these Jeeps. You just pop these out with a flathead screwdriver or a pry tool, and pop those pins up, and the whole grill just tilts out and pops off. There's little snap clips that are reusable that just are built into the bottom of the grill here. So it's super easy to remove. And while I was at it, I taped off my headlights and resprayed my light rings as well. Painter's tape worked really well as far as just masking things off, and just using some pieces of cardboard to keep the overspray from getting onto the vehicle. But the product I used for this was actually a high heat barbecue grill paint. It's just a matte black paint. You don't want to put very much on there, just a light coating is all it takes. And that radiator looks good as new. Alright, I'm going to throw in an easy one here before we get to our final project, but I gotta say, you're going to want to see the final project. It's one of my favorite things I've done to my Jeep. But before we get there, how about a hidden garage door opener mount? Now, I know this is really simple, so let me explain why I included this one. For me, the garage door opener is like a key to your house, right? So I wanted it somewhere convenient so I'm not fumbling around for it, but also someplace secure. Now, most vehicles you can just stick that up on the visor, no big deal. But with a Jeep, your top's off, your door's off, you're parking in public places, anybody can just grab that off the visor. I don't want to be always tossing it in the glove box when I leave the vehicle, so I wanted to mount it somewhere secure, out of the way, both for convenience and for security. So the install was super simple. Just popped the cover off and drilled a couple of pilot holes, used some really shallow set screws to screw it into the dash. You want to use shallow screws so you don't risk poking anything behind the dash. So there you go, a super easy one. But let's head into the garage. I want to show you guys this last project. This is probably the most involved out of all 5 of these, but it's become my favorite part of the interior of my Jeep. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I bedlined the interior of my hardtop. Now for me, this was an aesthetics thing. I just don't like that factory white color of the inside of the hardtops. And so the product I used has held up really well. I used it on my wheels as well, and I'm gonna leave a link to it down in the description so you guys can check it out. But let me back the Jeep in here and show you guys what this looks like on the Jeep. By the way, if you have a hardtop and you're interested in just a very simplified, streamlined, inexpensive electric hoist system, check out my electric hoist video for your hardtop. I'll post the link in the description below. But yeah, I just wanted you guys to see, because to me it just really changes the whole feel of the interior of the Jeep. I hate to use the term luxurious, but it just makes it a lot nicer of a place in here. I did sand down the top before I applied this paint, and I did several coats. I may do a detailed how-to video of that if there's interest for that, but for the sake of this video, I just wanted you guys to see the look of it from the inside of the Jeep. Well guys, that's it for today's video. If you're interested in doing some of these projects to your Jeep, I left a couple of links down in the description for some of the products I highlighted in this video. Check those out. That's a great way to support the channel, as well as giving the video a thumbs up if you liked it, sharing it with someone you know, and subscribing for lots more great content here on 4x Trail. We'll see you soon. Silly cat.